All right, now that we've learned how to self-rally, which is rally with ourself, we're going to move on to being able to feed the ball and being able to rally on the wall. But before we do that, we need to talk about really the principles behind tennis. So there's two skills that are required in tennis. One is the sending skill, basically the stroke production and the technique that you use to send the ball. And the other skill is the receiving skill. And that's the skill to identify whether the ball is going to be a forehand or a backhand and organize your feet, create space, and prepare. So the main things that we want to do in the receiving skill is the first is the recognition that, okay, the ball is going to be on our forehand side, and we're going to do a slight pivot, and we're going to keep both of our arms on the hitting side of our body, and we're going to prepare as early as possible. The other thing that we want to do is we want to keep our strings slightly down towards the court, so not up, not all the way down, but just slightly pointing down towards the court, because the mechanics of the swing is kind of like a throwing motion. So as I throw my arm, my elbow goes forward. Watch the way my palm rotates. My palm rotates from a slightly down position to a vertical position. And that's the position that we want to be on impact. So if we start with our palm vertical and we move our elbow up, then our palm becomes facing upwards. So if we can receive the ball in this position where our palm is facing slightly down towards the court, we've pivoted, and we've created space. And the other thing is the contact point. We want to make sure that we have this good contact point, and that's all about the timing of, the racket drop and the forward swing. So those are the kind of the basic principles: is the spacing, the preparation, this pivot, and then as we swing forward, we want to make sure that our contact point is correct, and then we start moving into more of the sending skills, which is the trajectory of the racket, the racket face angle, the speed, as well as the contact point. And the one thing that we want to focus in on is the angle of the racket face and the trajectory of the racket. So typically, when the ball comes from the other side, it's going to go over the net, it's going to bounce, it's going to rise up, and then it's going to start coming down. It's going to come down on a trajectory that's maybe like this. We want to send the ball back on that same trajectory, and we want our strings to face a target that is, several feet above the net. So our typical swing path would be slightly upwards. We want to drop the racket slightly below and then send it slightly upwards. The reason is, if we have a descending ball, and we have a flat strings and a horizontal swing path, ball's going to go straight down. So we have to meet a descending ball with an upward trajectory with a slightly upward racket face angle. This way we can send the ball up on the same trajectory that it came to us. If I'm swinging flat, then the ball is going to go straight down because it has a downward trajectory. So those are kind of the main things for the receiving part, which is preparing. That's the pivot, getting the racket and both arms on the right side, the hitting side of the body. We want to create space by keeping our arms on this side, making sure that the incoming ball passes our non-hitting hand fully extended. And then we're going to keep our palm slightly down, or string slightly down, knowing that as I swing forward, the palm is going to become more vertical. And then we want the string slightly upwards at contact. And then we want our contact point right here off our front hip. So if we have our contact point too far back, it's very likely that we don't have enough wrist extension and we're hitting to the target from our right hip. But we want to have a little bit of a wrist extension so our contact point is a little bit further in front. And then if you can add a little bit of a pivot into the shot, so I'm going to pivot, and then I'm going to pivot. I'm going to pivot, and then pivot. That's even better. That's maybe a video that we'll do later on. But right now, if you can just focus in on creating space, hitting upwards with a slightly upwards racket face, good space, and that contact point right off that front hip, then you should be able to sustain a rally. In the next video, we're going to talk about how to start the feed and then how to rally on the garage door.